UFC 259 is now in the past. It's time to start looking forwards. I'm going to tell you guys every fight to make next after UFC 259. I'm going to go through the entire main card, telling you guys who I want the winner and loser of each bout to be matched up with next. Also, I'm going to go through the prelims and pick out some of the highlights because there were a lot of prelims on the card. I'm going to pick out some of the big names that got wins on the prelims and try and guide their career path moving forward against their next opponent. But we're going to start with the main card, and we're going to start with the main event, of course, more importantly. Blachowicz got a clear decision win against Israel Adesanya. Great fight for Jan Blachowicz, and he called out Glover Teixeira, his #1 contender. I like that call out. I want that matchup to be made next. Battle of the old timers, still doing the damn thing. Two people who refuse to give up in the light heavyweight division, finally getting their time to fight each other for the belt. Glover Teixeira had his chance before, now he's got another chance. Can he do it against Jan Blachowicz? I'm so glad that we have a champion in Jan Blachowicz that has given an opportunity to the #1 contender, because Jan Blachowicz is a bigger name than ever coming off a win against Israel Adesanya. He could start talking about how he wants to move up to heavyweight for the money fights. He could start talking about all of this stuff. He could dare John Jones to come back down to light heavyweight and take him on in the meantime while Stipe fights Ngannou. No, he wants the #1 contender. I'm very glad. I know Aleksandar Rakic is also a contender, and we'll get to him in a second because he also fought at UFC 259. However, I'd argue that Teixeira beat Santos in a more marketable way than Rakich did, and even if Rakich head kick KO'd Thiago Santos in the first round, I'd still want Glover Teixeira to get the job done because he has beaten a lot of good guys in that division. Nikita Krylov, Anthony Smith, Thiago Santos. It's time to give him a title shot. Jan Blachowicz versus Glover Teixeira should take place next. Everyone knew that when they clicked on this video. Let's get down to the real business, okay? Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker 2 should take place next. However, we've got a bit of a situation in the middleweight division right now during a Grand Prix kind of situation. Robert Whittaker versus Paulo Costa, Marvin Vittori versus Darren Till. Both fights are happening in April, coming up soon in only a couple of weeks. Time flies by in the MMA world. I think that for sure the lead runner for the title shot, we can't deny this, Robert Whittaker should have already got a title shot. He should not need to fight Paulo Costa for his title shot. That makes no sense whatsoever. He's already earned it, and if he beats Paulo Costa, there is no way, regardless of what happens with Vittori versus Till. Marvin Vittori can Ezekiel choke Till in the first round. I don't care. Robert Whittaker, if he beats Paulo Costa, gets the title shot against Israel Adesanya next. We need to see that rematch. In hindsight, looking back at the Whittaker fight, Whittaker landed a lot of shots on Adesanya. Did better than some other guys in there, especially Paulo Costa. Did way better than Paulo Costa against Israel Adesanya. I feel like Robert Whittaker, if he beats Paulo Costa, should get the title shot. However, if Paulo Costa does beat Robert Whittaker, I would want Vittori to get a title shot if he beats Darren Till. So if Paulo Costa beats Robert Whittaker and Vittori beats Darren Till, give Marvin Vittori the title shot. If Darren Till beats Marvin Vittori and Paulo Costa beats Robert Whittaker, I don't know what to do. Maybe you do actually do the Paulo Costa versus Adesanya rematch. There's a lot of beef there. There's the whole excuses from Paulo Costa. We'll see if he can make the adjustments that he needs to. I don't want to see Darren Till get a title shot coming off one win because he's only beaten Gastelum. I guess that's a good win in terms of marketing for an Adesanya fight because Adesanya's toughest fight was Kelvin Gastelum. However, I just feel as though I don't want to see that one straight away with a guy in Darren Till coming off a one-fight win streak. I know that Paulo Costa would also be coming off a one-fight win streak, but in the case that he beats Whittaker, he would be coming off a one-fight win streak against a guy that Darren Till just lost to the fight before last. So, in my opinion, if Whittaker beats Costa, give the title shot to Whittaker, and if Whittaker does win, and Marvin Vittori versus Darren Till also happens, knock on wood, I feel like the winner of Marvin Vittori versus Darren Till should take on Kevin Holland or Derek Brunson, whoever wins that matchup. I was very, very careful to include Derek Brunson's name there because I don't want to overlook him. I feel like Holland might get the job done, but if Kevin Holland can beat Derek Brunson, definitely want to see him matched up against the winner of Darren Till versus Marvin Vittori. Holland versus Vittori while Whittaker gets his title shot. Holland versus Darren Till while Whittaker gets his title shot. I can't wait. I feel like that'll be a perfect builder. A fight night main event 100%. A lot of trash talk. There's a bunch of guys right now that want that Israel Adesanya fight, and I think what better matchup to make than Kevin Holland if he gets past Derek Brunson versus the winner of that bout, and then give Robert Whittaker the title shot, or Paulo Costa. I don't even care. But if Vittori wins and Paulo Costa wins, give it to Marvin Vittori. I mean, he went to a split decision with Adesanya. I know it wasn't a split decision, but it was a really close fight. One of the rounds was pretty close. It went to Israel Adesanya, don't get me wrong. One of the rounds was clear for Israel Adesanya, and one of the rounds was clear for Marvin Vittori with his grappling. And after we just saw Jan Blachowicz use his grappling against Adesanya, there's some marketability there with Marvin Vittori, the only guy to really out-grapple Adesanya at middleweight to finally get his chance and do the same thing that Blachowicz could. I think that's what you should do next with Israel Adesanya in the middleweight division. But moving on down the card to the people's co-main event, Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. The rematch needs to happen next. I don't need to match up both of them with individual opponents next. Make the rematch. Stop talking to Cejudo. Don't even pay any attention to Henry Cejudo whatsoever. I don't care about that one, in all honesty. I would love to see Cejudo come back, don't get me wrong. But we have unfinished business right now in the bantamweight division. And I think a perfect card for it to go on is the June pay-per-view card with Deiveson Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno on it. I think those are two perfect, controversial, close... Wasn't really close in the Yan versus Sterling one. We all know Sterling was about to get absolutely butchered in that 5th round. However, I feel like it's a great matchup. Put it on the card with Figueiredo versus Moreno 2 and sell the entire thing as unfinished business. UFC 262 or 263, whatever it's going to be. Unfinished business. Figueiredo versus Moreno. There was a groin shot in that one and then it ended up as a draw. And then you've got Yan versus Sterling. A DQ happened and Yan was on his way to winning and Sterling still feels like he has a chance for some bizarre reason. Like he didn't get the memo the first time. But still, Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling 2 needs to happen next. Yan's the best bantamweight in the world. Aljamain Sterling's the bantamweight world champion. It feels weird to say that without laughing. However, Aljo's the bantamweight world champion, and Petr Yan's the best bantamweight in the world. We need to figure out who the best man is. Let's turn him around real quick because Aljo went to hospital and didn't get called and didn't get diagnosed with a concussion at hospital. So, I think we can turn him around quite quickly. Moving on to... what is this? Oh, this is 4 a.m. Guru talking to me right now in my notes. Remove women's featherweight. Cut Amanda Nunes. I don't fucking care anymore. I wish you guys could see my screen right now. I don't even remember typing this. This is down a page on my notes. Remove women's featherweight, according to 4 a.m. Guru. Amanda Nunes versus no one. I don't fucking care anymore. Nice. Let's do that next. Or just Nunes Pena. I don't give a fuck. Megan Anderson, get rid of her. Get rid of the whole women's featherweight division. I agree with that part of it. Get rid of the whole women's featherweight division. Maybe don't cut Amanda Nunes, but like, fucking remove that whole division. It isn't even a division. If you don't have a division where you feel safe enough to put the rankings up without embarrassment, don't have the division in your company, okay? $10 billion company, don't have a division that doesn't have fucking rankings existing in your company. Fucking remove it. It's just feeding Amanda Nunes free fucking legacy that she just is getting handed on a silver platter. She's getting free legacy handed to her by girls who don't know how to fight. Moving on, Islam Makhachev just beat Drew Dober in the feature fight of this card as well, in the 4th slot down. I think he should take on the winner of Tony Ferguson versus Kevin Lee 2. I know he's calling out Rafael Dos Anjos. That is a matchup that could be made, don't get me wrong. However, I would much rather see this for the storyline. Kevin Lee versus Tony Ferguson 2 on the pay-per-view in May. There's a pay-per-view in May. We don't have a main event yet, so we're going to need some big star power on the card. I think a great rematch to make would be Tony Ferguson versus Kevin Lee 2. The rematch, both guys on a little bit of a slide right now. Kevin Lee coming off a loss in his last fight to Charles Oliveira. Same thing with Tony Ferguson. Let's see who has it most next against each other. Kevin Lee came close to winning the first time. Tony Ferguson pulled it off in the end. I think we need to see Tony Ferguson versus Kevin Lee 2 in May. The winner of that takes on Islam Makhachev in October. Khabib season, by the way, if you haven't noticed a trend. October is Khabib season. I think that's when you need to do it. Kevin Lee, Tony Ferguson in May. Winner of that one takes on Islam Makhachev in October. If it's Tony Ferguson, you can have Tony Ferguson versus Islam Makhachev, and Ferguson will be coming off a win. I don't want to see Islam Makhachev beat Tony Ferguson on a 2-fight losing streak where everyone kind of feels like Tony Ferguson's on the slide and losing his ability to fight. You know what I mean? I want Makhachev to get a good win over a ranked opponent that still got it in the bag. And I think Tony Ferguson needs to prove that against Kevin Lee first before we start giving Makhachev to Tony Ferguson. But that storyline is amazing. Tony Ferguson, Islam Makhachev, Khabib in the corner of Islam watching the fight happen in front of him. If Tony Ferguson wins and beats Makhachev, Maybe there's an interaction between Tony Ferguson and Khabib in a corner. That would be a great fight to make next. And even if it's Kevin Lee, him and Makhachev have been talking back and forth for a very long time. That would be a fight I'd like to see as well. But other than that, Drew Dober, I think shouldn't really be pushed that far down. So maybe like a Magomed Mustafayev or a Bobby Green. Two guys coming off losses right now and close losses as well. Magomed Mustafayev had a tough loss to Brad Riddell, but it was a very close fight. Then you got Bobby Green coming off a loss to Thiago Moises, where he arguably didn't even lose. And yeah, they're pretty highly ranked outside the rankings, coming off a loss. Drew Dober versus Bobby Green or Drew Dober versus Magomed Mustafayev. Moving on down the card. Thiago Santos took on Aleksandar Rakic on the card. Aleksandar Rakic should take on, with his win over Thiago Santos, which was very close, by the way, should take on the winner of Dominic Reyes versus Jiří Procházka. It's taking place in May the 1st, I believe. Let's do the winner of that one versus Aleksandar Rakic on a September card, main card, and the same card as Jan Blachowicz versus Glover Teixeira, because Jan Blachowicz and Glover Teixeira, don't get me wrong, they're at the top of the division, they're good fighters. They're also old fuckers, okay? So they're going to get injured, and who knows, one of them might get injured. They're more injury prone than these young guys in their prime. So let's just say that, let's have a little bit of an insurance policy. Aleksandar Rakic versus the Dominic Reyes Jiří Procházka winner as a title elimination bout on the same card as Blachowicz Teixeira, in the case that if anyone falls out the main event, we can have Aleksandar Rakic get volunteered up and find a replacement for Jiří Procházka or Dominic Reyes on that card. I think that would be the best thing to do, and I think that would be justifiable as well. Aleksandar Rakic wants his title shot. You can't quite give him a title shot over Glover Teixeira. This is the next best thing. You can give him that chance to be a short notice replacement. That's what I think they should do next. Other than that, Thiago Santos, 3-fight losing streak. Fight Nikita Krylov. If you lose that one, time to go. You know what I'm saying? Moving on down the card, Dominic Cruz. Now, I know he called out Hans Molenkamp. I don't want to see that one. I don't know why he called out that guy. I know the situation with Monster, don't get me wrong, but I feel like he should have called out a ranked opponent in the bantamweight division if he was going to be continuing fighting, and I think the perfect ranked opponent is Frankie Edgar. He's not going to take on Pedro Munoz, Dominic Cruz. That's a terrible matchup for him. I think he's going to look for a winnable matchup against a big name that's going to get him a ton of attention, and I think Dominic Cruz versus Frankie Edgar is a great matchup. Put it on the main card of any pay-per-view coming up anytime soon. I will watch it. Frankie Edgar says he wants one more fight or wants another fight and to continue to fight, which is crazy after the amount of damage he's taken in his career, but still, if they both want it, Dominic Cruz versus Frankie Edgar, great matchup. Winner of that one maybe gets the winner of Aldo versus Garbrandt for a title elimination bout. Who knows? I think there's a bunch of fun matchups you could make with Dominic Cruz, but I think the best one to make right now, despite him coming off a bad loss, is Frankie Edgar. Two old-timers. Let's not feed Dominic Cruz to this up-and-coming... Let's not do Merab Dvalishvili versus Dominic Cruz. You know what I mean? Let's not do those kind of matchups. Let's not do Frankie Edgar versus... Kyler Phillips next, and we'll get to Kyler Phillips in a second. However, I want to see Dominic Cruz versus Frankie Edgar next. Great matchup. Make it happen, Dana White, or whoever does the matchmaking, Sean Shelby. Moving on. Kyler Phillips, I think, should take on Ricky Simone. I know he's just beaten Song Yadong, who's ranked. However, he hasn't been around for the longest time. 3-0 in the bantamweight division. He's had a bit of a meteoric rise. It's time to give him that matchup that's going to then allow him to look towards the top 10 of the bantamweight division. Both guys have momentum right now. Both guys are on win streaks right now. Kyler Phillips versus Ricky Simone. Great matchup to make, and I think both of them should be 14 and 15 in the bantamweight rankings. Let's make that fight happen next to decide who we jump into the top 10. Next up, Kyler Phillips versus Ricky Simone. Great matchup to make. Moving on up the card, down the card, Askar Askarov. I think you should take on the winner of Perez versus Schnell or Kai Kara France, and this depends on some things, okay? It depends on who wins out of Perez and Schnell. If Schnell beats Perez, I don't think we should give Schnell a title elimination bout against Askar Askarov. If Perez beats Schnell, we should make Perez versus Askar Askarov. But if Schnell beats Perez, we should make Askar Askarov versus Kai Kara France, and then do Schnell versus like Alejandro Pantoja or something like that. Those are the two guys right now that you can't match up together because Askarov beat Pantoja recently, but you can match them up with individual guys underneath them. So one guy in Askarov and Pantoja gets Kai Kara France, the other one gets the winner of Perez versus Schnell, and I think that's the way they should do it. Moving on down the card, Sean Brady was a stick out on the prelims. He should take on Li Jingliang in Asia on April 24th. I think they should make a quick turnaround because that card is so unstacked that you can get in a great... I mean, Sean Brady, Li Jingliang might be on the main card of that event. So I think a lot of fighters need to start looking at these unstacked pay-per-view cards and realizing, wait a minute, when I'm on this massive pay-per-view card, I'm on the early prelims where I shouldn't be, in my opinion, because I'm undefeated in the UFC and undefeated overall in Sean Brady. But when I'm on these other cards that aren't so stacked, I can be on the main event. So I think Sean Brady versus Li Jingliang should be at UFC 262 in wherever they're doing it. I think they're doing it in Vegas now anyway, but it's a smaller card. It's Asian themed as well because it was intended to be in Singapore. Let's do that fight. Sean Brady, Li Jingliang, turn Brady right around against a ranked opponent that he wants and get Li Jingliang on that card. It just makes too much sense to have Li Jingliang on a card with Weili Zhang as the main event. Moving on, Uros Medic versus Clay Guida is a fight I want to see made next. And people aren't going to like that one, but Uros Medic, we've got a star potential here. And Clay Guida asked, and I would not say this normally, I would never volunteer Clay Guida to fight Uros Medic normally, but in his interview after his win against Michael Johnson, Clay Guida said out loud at the end of his interview when asked who he wants next, don't give me no more veterans, I want a young up-and-comer. I want someone with momentum, I want a young prospect, give me one of your guys. Uros Medic is that guy in my opinion. Let's do Uros Medic versus Clay Guida, and I've also put here Tim Elliott versus Tagira Lembekov. Any of those fights are good in my opinion, but moving on to nothing, no one else really piqued my interest. Like and subscribe, thank you for watching, click that button up there, maybe do like Kennedy Nzechukwu versus the winner of Ion Kutalaba versus Devin Clark. Winner of that one gets a ranked opponent, who knows. Thank you for watching the video, click that button up there, goodbye, I'll see you later.